pray for our decisions tonight, that they would be pleasing to you, and that you would bless them. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And wouldn't you know, my computer would go off. All right. We'll go the paper route then. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hawkins? Here. Mr. Pruitt? Here. Ms. Mel? Here. Mr. Ledbetter? Here. Ms. Smith? Here. Ms. Isby?
Here.
All right, you should have received copies of the city council meeting for March 9th, 2021. Any corrections, changes, or
Make
comments?
a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0. All right, before we start, I'd like to give a big thank you to a few of our different departments. The department heads have been really good to get us the names of some of their personnel and some of the things that they've been doing. Conway Fire Department, we have Captain Stuart Wilcox, Captain Jonathan Talley, Captain Jonathan Bailey, Engineer Rick Stapleton, Engineer Nathan Caldwell, and Engineer Danny Collins. And Chief Winter received an email from the fire chief at Fairfield Bay stating that early this evening, my spouse and I drove down to Conway for dinner. Once in town, our onboard computer indicated that left rear tire was leaking air. It was about 7 p.m. and a call of the tire shops, the call to all the tire shops were closed, that they were closed for the day. And being a fire chief for many years, I decided to stop by Station 1 to see if we could air up the tire. Your crew not only got the air hose out, but they found a screw in the tread and removed it. And one of the crew had a patch kit in his personal car, and another member completed the job. They aired. What am I doing? Okay. They aired up the tire and went on our way. We aired up the tire and went on our way. What a great group. They were so very pleasant and accommodating, and that's not spelled right. We come down this way pretty often, and I will bring him a replacement patch kit on my next trip to give to your firefighter. I had the privilege of being a fire chief for 2 years in Champaign, Illinois, and Greeley, Colorado. He's been in it for over 25 years, and he can speak to your experience in saying how well your crew has represented your department and your city and the fire service as a whole. Very good. Sanitation Department, a thank you on Facebook from someone stating, I would like to say a big thank you to all the drivers who picked up all of our tree limbs yesterday and today. We had a bunch. They made multiple stops, and we really appreciated them again. Thank you. And then Parks and Rec at the tennis center, White and Todd are giving group tennis lessons, and we received an email thanking them for sharing their knowledge and stating that the city is blessed to have them. As usual, we have a great group of employees citywide. Next, we have the monthly financials with Mr. Winningham, who is zooming in on us. Mr. Winningham. Mr. Winningham, are you there? Technology is a blessing and a curse. Okay, we can come back. I'll say that. Let me look at our next. Okay, let's move to this bit of work here and we can come back. Next, we have an Economic Development Committee recommendation here, and I think some of you have spoken to me about this. It's an ordinance to approve the private club permit for Los Galitos Mexican Restaurant of Conway to be located at 1250 Old Marlton Highway. And the owners of the restaurant should be online with us as well. Yes, sir. Milton, I see you there. So, would you like to speak to this, Milton? Can you get Milton on there, Aaron? Hello, Milton. Can you hear me? Wow. Wow. This is technical difficulties, folks. Yes, we can. Let's move on. We'll come back. Next up, we have consider. I know Brett Carroll's going to want on board, but I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Next up is consideration to approve to the Board of Directors the nomination of Kelly Erstein to Conway Corporation. Brett and I had spoke about this earlier this week. Kelly's UCA grad, been in Conway a long time, just built another house over here off of Mitchell Street, and Brett and the board feels like that Kelly will be a good addition.
I make a motion to approve the nomination.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve to the Board of Directors, a Board of Directors nomination of Kelly Erstein for Conway Corporation. Any further discussion? Yeah, I think so. Mr. Garrett, would you call the vote, please?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 6-0. And I see Nancy Avers on there. Nancy, you can tell Brett he owes us big for this.
It's actually Brett. Thank you very much.
Oh, so you're having technical difficulties too.
I'm filling in for Nancy tonight.
No, you couldn't do that. I know, Nancy. You couldn't.
Thank you very much.
You've been approved, or Kelly's been
All
approved.
right.
He'll be a great addition.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Winningham, are you back on board with us?
Yes, sir. I think I'm working now.
All right. You're looking good. I wouldn't go that far.
I heard that.
Monthly financial report ending February 28th, 2021. Mr. Winningham, ball is yours.
I don't really have a whole lot to go over tonight. We're just 2 months in. As you mentioned, we're looking at February. There's really not a whole lot of big things to point out. Sales tax revenue was up just under 5%. We'll call it 4.8. And this is for December sales activity. So now we know truly what 2020 looked like for us, and it was up roughly the same number, 4.8%, which citywide for total sales tax, that comes out to about $1.5 million. Just a portion of that 1.5 million applies to the general fund, but 2020, the way we thought it was going to turn out did not turn out to be how it did turn out, which is the case, I think, for most cities in the state of Arkansas and maybe even across the country. But sales tax was up for the year, and so far through 2 months, everything's looking good. Our expenditures in the general fund are below average, which is contributing to that nice looking bottom line going into the next month. And that's really all I've got, unless somebody has a question or comment.
I make a motion to approve the monthly financials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the monthly financial report ending February 28th, 2021. Any further discussion? I'll tell you what, sales tax, if business keeps rolling like it was this past weekend in Conway, we ought to be coming out because everybody was covered up. Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Winningham.
Yes, sir.
We'll go back to the restaurant, and I think I got a text saying that Milton could hear us now. Milton, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you speak to the council about this, please, sir?
Yes, it's an application for a private club, Los Gallitos Mexican Restaurant in Morrington, Highway. I got the applicant right here, Miss Mariah Maribel Paris, and it's a 95 seating capacity. We're trying to just add, the beer right now and the mixed drink as a private club.
Okay. Did you get everything worked out with the ABC board as well as the A&P,
Yes.
A&P committee?
Yes, they just request, you know, your approval, and that way they can go ahead with the inspection and everything.
Okay, all right, thank you. Council, any questions, any comments?
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Mayor, what was the issue? You said some of the council members had.
No,
I've
I don't
not
know, I
heard.
don't know that any of the council members had. I had heard a few issues, especially, most specifically with us, with the A&P board, in that the A&P taxes from these individuals had, or this individual had not been paid. Is that correct?
That is correct. Not necessarily the applicant that was listed on the permit, but one of the ones on the permit was behind and had not abided by the rules of the A&P. But it's my understanding in talking to Denise this week that, and Andy, I think you may have gotten the same call, that this individual is no longer listed at all on this application.
Okay.
Was the individual that was behind on their taxes, on their A&P taxes, here and to the state, are they caught up? Do we know what that situation is right now?
I tried to call Ms. Walden today, but I guess because it's spring break, I didn't get a call back, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
You have any thoughts on this, Evan?
I'm not sure if
Okay.
they're caught up either.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Charles has any more up-to-date
Here's
information.
Mr. Finkenbinder's just joined us.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the individual that I think it is. That's my understanding as well, is that that this person is no longer connected with Los Galitos.
Yes, yes,
So
no
as
longer
long,
connect.
as long as that's actually true, then I wouldn't see any reason to deny the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Finkenbinder.
I make a mo-
What building is that? Does anybody know?
1250 Old Malton Highway.
It's the one in that hotel.
Yes,
Old Holiday Inn?
well, that's not the Old Walton Highway.
No, that's Highway 64, 65.
Yeah. Ask Milton where it's located.
Milton, is that where the old Holiday Inn was?
yes, it's on Moriton. It's the restaurant.
Okay.
It is wrong address.
You might want to check and make sure that we've got a correct address on that. Does that hold us anything up tonight? Okay, all right.
I make a motion for adoption.
Okay, it's 1250 Old Moriton Highway.
Yeah, if you would check that, check with the local 911 folks at Faulkner County and make sure that that's the correct address, if you would.
I will,
And
sir.
then then get back with
Well, and he sure
with
don't
ours.
want to advertise and then,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
people are trying to find it and it's not where.
Yeah, we have to apply for the AMP also.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. And a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
Mr. Milton, this is Andy Hawkins, and I don't know you. Do you have other restaurants in Conway right now?
No, sir.
You do know that there are advertising and promotion commission taxes?
Yes, we're gonna apply for the AMP also.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Yeah, I am aware.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
All right, if there's no other discussion, Mr. Garrett.
This would be ordinance O.
There's one other thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry. I pulled this up. 1250 Old Morrilton Highway shows to be in the same complex as Fuji Steakhouse, Los Galos Taqueria, Firehouse Subs, right off of Pike Ridge, across from David's Burgers.
It's Los Gallos.
That's what it
Yeah, that
shows.
shopping center's slightly west of this location we're talking about. There's actually,
Right.
there's
That's
a
where
couple of
1250 comes-
businesses between it, 3 businesses between it. So, yeah,
Right.
if you would, Milton, check with,
Yeah.
with the local 911 office and get us a correct address on that, please.
Okay, I will.
All right, thank you. Mr. Garrett.
This would be ordinance O 2132. Mr. Pruitt, Aye. Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yeah. Passes 6-0. Thank you, Milton.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've done that one. Next up is an ordinance to enter into an agreement with Rock Region Metro to provide microtransit services for the city. If y'all remember, we get federal money for this, and Felicia's on board too, online, and she can give us an exact dollar amount, but we've got a fairly hefty sum in there, and we're looking at microtransit, and we do know that the buses will not work in Conway because most of the time they're not going to be at capacity. Plus, they put out a lot of emissions. So we're looking at a microtransit system here, and we want to partner with Rock Region so the money will pass through them. They will handle the maintenance and the personnel. And Felicia, if I'm wrong in saying that, please speak up. But I think this is a very important step for our city. And one thing they're not ready to really look into this yet, but they're thinking about, or actually talking about, looking at possibly in the very near future and doing a study in a city where they have electric cars. And we would like to get our name in on that as well. So anyway, Felicia, can you think of anything that needs to be added?
No, that was good.
Can you tell she's on vacation this week? Anyway, this is a big step for us as a city, and I think it's a good step for us. But the money's there. It's not going to hit our general fund, and we'll just see how it works. If y'all are good with that.
How many vehicles are we talking about, Mr.
At first,
Mayor?
they wanted to put 2, but we did not, because they have to service as well. We felt like that would leave us short. We're going to meet, when Felicia gets back, we're going to meet with Rock Region and tell them we'd like to have a minimum of 4.
Okay.
We would like to have 1 in each quadrant of the city.
And the money goes to purchase the vehicles?
It
Is that-
purchases the vehicle. Felicia, why don't you fill in for me here? I know it purchases the vehicles, and it pays the salaries. It pretty well handles everything. It keeps us from having to hire someone
That's good.
to oversee it all.
That's good.
I think Mr. Frazier may be online, but it handles the majority of the program. There is a match to some of the money, but the first part of the money that we got came from the CARES Act funding, and so we won't be out of anything when we first start.
Yeah, Charles, thanks for joining us. Would you like to add anything?
I would.
If can you hear me all right? Good afternoon, council members, mayor. Rock Region Metro is very excited to provide a mobility solution for the city. I think it's a great opportunity. CARES funding is 100% federal match, so very low risk. And it covers, the investment covers everything. It's the vehicles, the drivers, fuel, maintenance, the software application, on-site supervisor to monitor the service. So we think it's going to be a great partnership. We're looking forward to getting started.
Mayor, is this money we'll get every year?
Yes,
Do you feel like-
this is federal money that we're getting. Felicia, what's that amount that we get annually?
So it fluctuates, but we're getting about 900 plus right now, and we have a balance of a little bit over $8 million.
That's when I said we had a significant amount of money in the bank.
So will the city own the vehicles, or will they own the vehicles?
Rock Region will own the vehicles. That was correct, wasn't it, Mr. Frazier?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're really just subcontracting out with them,
Yes.
basically. is what we're
Yeah,
doing.
they're handling
everything.
everything. We're just
All
gonna
the
we're just gonna
liability,
we're-
everything.
yes, they handle everything. We're just gonna have the vehicles here available.
Okay, great.
And we would like to put in a plug for 4 vehicles there, Charles.
We will price that out, absolutely.
Everything costs something, so if
Well,
you want
yeah.
4, I'm sure.
How does the accounting work on this, Mr. Frazier?
So, we have a policy that my board passed late last year when we're working with partners to provide service. Basically, we're a governmental agency like yourselves. We're not for profit. We need to cover our costs. And so, as an example, when we are talking about putting 2 full-time vehicles on the road for 12 hours a day, what we're really purchasing are 5 or 6 vehicles. to make that happen. You've got the 2 vehicles for the AM shift, the 2 vehicles for the PM shift, a spare vehicle for accidents or breakdowns. So we're absorbing all of those costs, and that's what the cost allocation, the accounting piece behind the scenes is covering all of that. Fuel, maintenance, the operational costs for the labor.
And we'll get an accounting of those costs?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you, Mr. Frazier. I'd also like to thank Jamie Bryce, of course, Felicia, Finley, and James Walden. They've all been working on this with Rock Region Metro and done a really good job. All right, councils, back to you.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Make
Pass 6-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance, and I have it as 02133.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? It's a big step tonight, folks. I appreciate y'all. Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Next up, we have community development. Mr. Hawkins, we'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we move on, y'all moved way too fast. Last one. So as I understand it, the ordinance that was just passed authorizes the entry into a contract, but just to make the council aware, the attorneys for Metro, for Rock Region and I are still working out the fine points of the contract.
Okay, what, is there anything we need to do about that, Evan, at this point?
Do we need to do something on that, Mr. Finkenbinder?
Well, I think that we would need to come back once we have the details. Some of the issues that I had with the proposed contract are fairly substantial. I talked to the attorney for Metro last week. I just haven't heard back from him yet. The initial indication I got from Metro's attorney was that the changes we were suggesting or requesting to the contract would probably be acceptable, but he would need to get with Charles. And so that's kind of where we are. I mean, there's some important details we need to hammer out.
Okay, that's on me then. I apologize to everyone. What we will do then is we'll move forward with our attorneys and their attorneys meeting, and then we'll bring it back to this council. Even though we've passed an ordinance, it'll still take private. Yeah, go ahead, James. Go ahead, James.
The way that the ordinance is structured, Charles gets our Charles, not Charles Frazier, gets the sign off on it, and so once those negotiations are finalized, I think we're actually covered.
That's correct.
Right.
Say that again, please.
In essence, the way the ordinance is written, it allows us to have the flexibility to negotiate the basically what's called Appendix A, which is all the terms with the agreement. And once Mr. Finkenbinder is comfortable with that and feels that we're on good legal ground, then that's the point at which we're authorized to execute that.
Okay. I'll still bring it back for this body and give y'all a final recap of it to make sure y'all are all still good with it. Does that work for everybody? All right.
It does for me if it does for Mr. Finkenbinder, and he wants to say something, I can tell.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, it just James is correct, and that was I just wanted to make that clear that the ordinance that's passed authorizes the mayor to enter into the contract, but there are still some details we need to work out, and I believe we can work them out. I haven't heard back from Metro's attorney yet.
Okay. Charles, when you say substantial legal cost, what would that number look like?
Well, one of the issues I have is I don't really have a firm number. There's an issue about, we need to hammer out the details of the payment arrangement. The number of vehicles needs to be in the contract. It's, just that's the lawyer thing on contracts is whatever we agree to needs to be in writing. I had an issue about the choice of venue clause, if there's any litigation where it would happen. So the main part of the contract that Felicia and James and Finley have worked out is fine. There's just a few details I'd like to I'd like to have some clarification on in the contract.
No,
And Metro,
no, that's good.
Metro's attorney, when I talked to him, indicated that he was going to talk to Charles, and he didn't think that anything I was suggesting would not be feasible. So I believe we'll have the agreement that we want.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Finkenbeiner, for stepping up and saying, again, I apologize to this body. I thought all of our details were worked out. So that's on me. Mr. Hawkins, back to you, sir.
All right, Mr. Mayor, this first item here is our ordinance to establish penalties for various building code violations for permits and inspection department. And James, are you gonna talk to us about this?
Yes.
You've got something
Yes,
in
I'm
mind.
here. Yes, sir. On the previous item, as staff, and I know Finley could express this as well, how excited we are about this particular thing with the microtransit. It is something that we're extremely excited about. We think it is a very forward-looking way to approach providing transit needs for our community. So I think it's something that's really exciting and very needed. As it relates to this particular item,
and we have Kenny McCullum here as well from permitting.
Yes, sir. So what this relates to is for the electrical code, the plumbing code, the state fire code, which is the building code, and the mechanical code. There are a variety of different mechanisms through which the violations are handled in that. And we've had some situations recently where we've had some unscrupulous, I would say, electricians conducting some work that really we needed a good ability to cite them for, frankly, work that was dangerous, could have killed someone. And so Kenny and our permits folks worked with Charles to draft up this ordinance to basically create a uniform system for enforcing penalties to all of those codes. And that's what this essentially amounts to. So when we have somebody that does something that's incredibly unsafe, we can go out, we can cite them, and then, provide a violation. And that the intent of that is for those individuals to learn that lesson so that we don't continue to have those things repeat over and over.
And this is not something we're going to use to beat folks over. Most of your contractors try really hard to do well. I think what Kenny told me was that they had an electrician who was using 3 foot of ground rod on residential construction. It's supposed to be 8 feet, and they went back and checked 5 other jobs, and they were all 3 feet. I'm sorry, Kenny. I'm old plumber. Everything's foot. So those are the things that we're trying to stop here. Would you agree, Pup? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
If I could sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
If I could, just wanted to say kudos to Zach Castleberry and Kenny McCullum for pointing this out, that there was a need for a change. And as the council will see from the wording of the ordinance itself, I put in the first part of the ordinance the way the current penalty sections are worded. So you'll see exactly how this is going to change. In some cases, like I think the plumbing code didn't have any penalties. And then the other codes had varying penalties. They weren't consistent. And so I appreciate them pointing that out. Now if the council agrees to this ordinance, we'll have a uniform penalty system for contractors.
Thank you, Charles.
Is there also electricians are licensed, right? Can we report them to?
Oh, yes.
Like a licensing
They do.
board or
They
something?
report them to the state.
Okay.
HVAC, plumbing, and electrical all have licensed personnel. Council, back to you.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
This be ordinance O-2134. Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Ms. Smith? Yes. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Was that?
Okay. And the emergency clause, Ms.
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
And Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Those both passed 6-0. Pup, thanks for a good job that you and your guys are doing. You can tell that other guy he did a good job. He won't believe me if I tell him. Okay.
They've been notified?
One of their plumbers dug it up while we were doing an inspection. I think he did it on purpose because they were having. But anyhow, we seen that it was a 2-foot ground rod and it was doing final on the house. So we questioned them about it. So we told them, take that backhoe over here. We just went and dug up the other 5 of them and they were.
I can get you every time.
So we want to penalize that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate it. Thanks, Pup.
That's life threatening right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kenny. Next up, we have a resolution. I'm sorry, Mr. Hawkins, back to you.
Yes, sir.
I'm all over the place tonight.
It's all right, Mr. Mayor. Next item is a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property from Conway Corporation for the Transportation Department. And we have a resolution to be read for this item. It's Resolution R2121.
21.
This is the property on South Harkrider, where their storage facility, I think it's their engineering department, some of those locations are there. They are actually wanting to move out to their old sewer plant off Bell Road there. And we got an appraisal on the property. I think it appraised at $4.5 million. Finley has that money to where we could purchase that if the council is okay with it and we do work it out, then that will allow Conway Corporation to move forward on renovating their property out there and allow us to move sooner. That will allow us also to put our property on East Robbins up for sale. If the council chooses not to do that, then we're going to need to invest some money into that property, and I feel like we're landlocked on that. Finley, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir. I think you pretty much summed it up. I think probably a lot of us agree that the highest and best use of the current transportation department is not for it to remain the transportation department. The chamber continues to have an option to purchase that property, and regardless of whether or not they exercise that option, I think the current Conway Corporation engineering building is a much better long-term location for the transportation department.
It is a great location.
It is.
I think easy for your guys to get, plus better storage, I think, or keeping equipment and
Yeah.
all that stuff there.
Well, safety as well.
Certainly, I'd say that's one of the best advantages of this site is that it's got a large number of buildings on it, and a lot of those buildings are covered storage for vehicles and equipment, machinery and equipment. A lot of our equipment is exposed right now, and really should be covered. And this would allow us to cover and provide protection for all of our equipment. We've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment right now that is not covered and needs to be rectified.
Mayor, do we know what the property would be worth? Have we gotten an appraisal on the
Yes.
current property?
Yeah, 4.5.
No, in our current street
Or
department.
no, Finley, do we have a current appraisal on our property? I know Finley's getting an environmental.
The most recent appraisal, it's a little, I can't remember how current the appraisal is, but the most recent appraisal was $1 million, but it could be a little outdated.
How much property at the Conway Corporation site, Finley? How many acres?
They're retaining a portion of it because there's a southern strip that they're going to need to retain because it's got a lot of electrical infrastructure. The current agreement is to buy about, I think it's in the ordinance, I think it's about 12 and a half acres out of about 15 or so.
You'd think Brett would just throw in the old restaurant with it. They own that too. You think he'd just throw that in? Brett, if you're watching, we did just approve one of your board members. We'd gladly take that restaurant in exchange.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution authorizing us to move forward with the purchase of real property from Conway Corporation for the Transportation Department. Any further discussion? It's another good move, council. I appreciate y'all. Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to adopt a citywide historic preservation plan for the Planning Department. And we have a resolution for this item. It's Resolution 02122. And James, I think that, yeah, you're still with us. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so this is the culmination of about a year and a half of work that we put in. We got a grant for $25,000 that you all allowed us to seek, and we hired the Walker Collaborative out of Nashville to help prepare a historic preservation plan for us. It's been adopted by the Historic District Commission and adopted by the Planning Commission. The intent of this is to make the historic preservation plan a part of the city's comprehensive plan so that when we evaluate certain things or integrate our policies, that component of the historical preservation is included in there. Some of the major provisions of the plan talk about increased educational awareness and awareness for property owners about tax credits and sort of all the goody stuff about historic preservation. But in terms of promoting the history, we've got a really proud history in our community that we should tout even more. Increased focus on preserving our African American history aspects of that in terms of our assets and those things. Some of which we're currently doing with a grant for a historic preservation or historic context study for the African American neighborhoods within Conway. And then another key provision was giving the Hendricks Edition and downtown the same level of protection in terms of historic protection as you see in the Robinson District currently. And so those are some of the major key provisions of the plan looking forward. So with that, that's really all I have.
Make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Any further discussion? Thank you, James. Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Final item here, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance requesting to rezone property at 2310 East Oak Street from C3 and R1 to S1 for the Planning Department. And we have an ordinance to read for this item. It's Ordinance 02135.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0. James, would you like to tell the folks at home about this?
Yes, sir. So this is a rezoning that is a combination of a commercial zone and a residential zone that the property is currently split zoned. And so they're seeking to go to what is called S1 institutional, which is essentially a zone that is intended for public buildings, for churches, for college campuses. So it's a zone that's specifically designed for this. The applicant doesn't really have any great intentions. This is for Wesley United Methodist Church that's out on the east side of town. They do want to build some outbuildings related to this, and that part of the reason why they're seeking the zoning at this time is because they've got that split zoning that is kind of creating some trouble for them. So,
Okay, thank you, James. Mr. Byron Mann is online with us as well.
Yes.
Council, if y'all have any questions for him.
I don't.
Okay, Council, back to
Make
you.
a motion for the adoption of the ordinance. I have it as 35.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance to rezone this property. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Isby.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Mann. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Next, we have our Public Safety Committee, and first item up is consideration to remove items from the inventory for the IT department. You sure you want to
Yeah.
get away or rid of any equipment after the many problems we had tonight here?
Only in seek of better equipment, sir. No, as from time to time we accumulate equipment that comes out of service and it builds up, and we bring a list to you just so we can clean up inventory and dispose of that properly, either selling or disposing of that through e-waste. So that's what we've got before you this evening.
I make a motion to approve the removal of items from inventory.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the removal of these items from the inventory for the IT department. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
This is 6-0. Thank you, Aaron. All right, next up, we have an ordinance authorizing a personnel change in the administration department. That's not entirely correct. This individual, this position, if the council approve it, will work under Lisa Mabry Williams. It's not a department head position. This is the one where we had it at one time in the city. It was a risk manager / workers' comp person who would go out and Rick's really who not only just kept up with our workers' comp claims, but also who went out. This time we want someone who will go out and train our departments, all of them, study on where the injuries are coming from, how they're occurring, and try to come up with ways to prevent those, as well as hopefully I would like to see a really solid wellness program citywide. So I think that's something else that they can look forward to. After visiting with Miss Mabry Williams and Tyler Winningham, they feel that we can see a significant cut, hopefully in our cost of workers' comp claims. So
I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02136.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
What's the total salary? It says 54,000 for the remainder of the year. What's the position going to be posted at? Do you know? And if not, I can.
No. The positions, I think from what I in visiting with Winningham, I think we're going to post it at 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And again, they will work under Miss Mabry Williams, and we will post this and advertise for it. Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Thank you, council. So, next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the purchase of various capital equipment for various departments. Let's see, it'd be $50,000 from the general fund for the fire department for the purchase of a cardiac monitor and firefighter mask testing machine. Also from the physical plant, it will be for the purchase of a mower, $10,000, and $21,000 for the IT department for the purchase of a vehicle.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
The ordinance 02137. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Mr. Ledbetter, they still use that banana gas to test those things. Do you remember that stuff? I don't know why they called it banana gas, but all right, the last item on the agenda is ordinance approving a partnership with the Conway Public Schools, and this is a 50-50 split. Mr. Finkenbinder, I really got to pat him and Conway Police Department on the back. They've really been working hard to make school bus, our kids getting off the school buses safer. And Mr. Finkenbinder and members of the PD who've been working with him recommended that we get the arm cameras put on the school buses so that when the arm comes out, it shows what traffic's doing. I contacted Mr. Murray at the Conway Public Schools, the superintendent, and asked him if he'd partner with us on this, and they were more than glad to. It's a 50-50 split. Our portion of it is, I think it's $23,000, maybe in some change. Yeah, 46.5 total. We would split that right down the middle.
Mayor, will it capture any license plate, license plate that we can pursue any charges against that person?
Mr. Finkenbinder.
Yeah, so there's really two purposes of the stop arm cameras, as they're sometimes called. And these are cameras that attach to the stop sign that swings out from the bus when it stops to load or unload children. So one reason is it helps enforcement. One thing that the city attorney's office in Conway does differently than probably anywhere in the state is we utilize the presumption in the law that allows charges to be filed even if police aren't around to issue a citation, as long as the license plate number matches the vehicle. There's a presumption that the owner of the vehicle was the driver. So that's something different, and we've probably filed probably a dozen charges in last fall alone, just out of my office. So the cameras will capture, I'm hoping, and I believe that this is accurate, they'll not only capture and record the license plate of the offending vehicle, but in a lot of cases, I believe they will also have a pretty good shot at the driver's face. So that's one reason. The safety reason is I have spent a lot of time talking to the transportation director, Joey Achan, and his bus drivers, and about how they get the license plate number. And I've gone to bus stops and I've watched them do that. I've seen people violate the law. Bus drivers they're watching their kids and signaling them. They've worked out hand signals to keep the kids safe and not cross until it's completely clear. At the same time, the bus driver is trying to get a license plate number. And as you might imagine, that's very difficult to do. And my preference would be to have their focus on the children and let the cameras do the work. So that's the second point behind the stop arm cameras.
Sounds great.
So these cameras are going to shoot dual direction?
That's correct. They shoot forward and back. And that's the great advantage in talking to the bus drivers is who are incredibly concerned about their kids, is that this will allow the driver to focus and the children to focus on the driver. That line of communication to keep those little kids safe is going to stay 100%. And the cameras will do the actual work that will allow my office to pursue charges against violators.
That's good stuff. I like this a lot.
I do too. And before anyone gets on social media and makes it like it's a Big Brother thing, this is not. This is about safety for our school children here in Conway. And if you do not violate the law and don't go around the school bus at swim stop, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. But if you do, Mr. Finkenbinder and Conway Police Department's going to write you a ticket. I'd like to also thank, I'm sorry, Council, it's back to y'all.
Has there been a motion to waive the readings yet?
There has not.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Be O-2138. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Finkenbinder, and I'd like to thank the Conway Public Schools Board and Dr. Murray for partnering with us on this. That's all we have tonight, Council. We have our retreat set for April 23rd from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And then I think the Chamber will be sending something out to y'all. They're wanting this board, this body here, to go with them, and I think Conway Corporation's board as well, and the Chamber board to an event at the Rockefeller Center in Malton to talk about their 2035 plan. I've signed up to go, and I won't be spending the night, but I will be attending both
Do you know what the
sessions.
dates are on that?
The 20th and 21st.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Of April?
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, Bart, before we adjourn, I want to call out Ty Ledbetter,
Yes.
who he came back from New Jersey, checked in and reached out to me, which I was glad to do, to kind of get the word out about our COVID vaccination event this Saturday. And so go to the city's website. You can sign up there. There's a phone number you can call. It's out on all kinds of social media. I've seen a lot of people starting to share it and get it out there. I think we have, 2,000?
2,000 doses, and
Yeah.
last according to Mr. Knight, as of today, we've already had 772 people sign up.
Okay, so do it. And Ty's just been so responsive. I'm looking at his dad, but.
He's got a real good mama. He got a real good mama.
Hey, Mayor, is there a age restriction on that, on the shot Saturday, or is it 18 and up?
That will be a question you'll need to check with Ty on.
I think what he told
16
me,
and
and
up.
what it's whatever the current opening is. Well, but that's with disabilities, I think. Did the governor change it again? It's all, yeah, it's all on the website. What they say, whatever the current state is open for, that's who can go. So go and sign up.
Well, Mr. Ty Ledbetter and Chief Winter and the Conway Fire Department have really stood tall during all this, and they're really reaching out, trying to help the community. His daddy gave him the name of COVID Cowboy, and it stuck. But yeah, he's done a tremendous job, and he does have a good mama. His daddy's okay too. His daddy and I spend a lot of time together in a lot of tight places. Yeah. All right, council, that's all I have. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I know I keep interrupting. I guess if I was there, I could be more readily seen. I just wanted to thank the mayor and the council for the school bus ordinance tonight and for their support to this safety program. I've been to a number of these bus stops, and I've seen children as young as 6 hop down from those stairs to cross a busy street. I've also seen children cross the street and then realize they dropped something and dart right back into the road. So this is really going to be a game changer. I'm convinced of that. And I just wanted to acknowledge that your commitment to the safety of our school children is really making Conway a model for the state.
We appreciate all the work y'all have done on it too, Charles. I know you've taken this on as a personal issue, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, council.